Hello, my name is Kimberly Morris, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about informed consent. First, we're going to go over the ACA recommendations. Then, we're going to go over how South Carolina has structured their policies. And then finally, we're going to take a look at a local LPC and see their consent form and see how it measures up. So, let's get started. For the ACA, we'll do that first. Under Section A2, it does have a couple recommendations on what we need to put on our informed consent. And that would be the client has the right to volunteer to be in counseling, and that is an ongoing thing. So not only do we up front tell them their rights and their informed consent, it's an ongoing basis, not just a one-time thing. So the other things that are important is that you tell them verbally and in writing that the limits of their confidentiality, and there are limits, and we'll go over those. First, you have to have informed consent details, such as the nature of services, fees, and billing processes. Secondly, you have to have how technology is going to factor in distance counseling and for plans of care. In the case that, like, if the counselor passes away, what would happen next? So you have to tell them that. Cultural and development sensitivity. You have to tailor it to the language they can understand in a respectful manner. That it is voluntary, and that minors are a little bit different in that, or ones that, adults that are incapable of giving their consent. They're a little bit different, and they need a legal guardian to make those decisions for them. Now, the other thing is that if something happens and they are getting ready, there's limits to that confidentiality. And that is if they decide that they're going to harm someone or themselves or another adult who is special needs, any of the above, if they're going to harm anybody, then you have to tell. You are required to tell the legal people. So now let's get started into South Carolina. South Carolina, you do have to also share the nature of the therapy. You have to give a clear explanation of the therapeutic process, expected outcomes, potential risk, and the fact that therapy can sometimes temporarily increase emotional distress or stir up sensitive areas. It might get technical. When we get to the minutia of something, it might get technical. Counselor qualifications. We have to tell them what we're trained in, whether we're KCREP or if we're not. We have to give them our status, whether we're in training, the extent of our professional background, how many hours, etc. Confidentiality and limits. We talked about that. The times that we are mandated to break confidentiality without consent. Suspected child abuse, neglect, vulnerable adult exploitation, or clear and immediate danger to self or others. Fair enough. Financial and business policy. They need a detailed breakdown of the fees, what insurances are taken, what happens during a cancellation or a no-show. We have to communicate that. Speaking of communication, another key South Carolina element is communication and availability. What your office hours are, how to reach you in a crisis, or your policy on emergency procedures. And then also treatment alternatives. So we discussed the issues. We do the diagnosis, the assessment, and then we discuss what our first choice is, and if there's any alternates to counseling, and reinforce that they do have the right to refuse or withdraw services at any time. Okay, now let's put somebody under the microscope. And I have chosen, I don't know if I'm supposed to say the person. I think we'll leave it confidential. But let's see how they did. Consent for treatment and limits of liability. Therapy sessions carry both benefits and risks. Therapy sessions can be significantly reduced. The amount of distress somebody is feeling, improved relationships, and or resolve other specific issues. However, these improvements and any cures cannot be guaranteed for the condition due to the many variables that affect the therapy sessions. So there are limitations. Limits of confidentiality. When you discuss during your therapy session is kept confidential. No consent of the therapy sessions, whether verbal or written, may be shared with another party without your written consent, or the written consent of legal guardians. The following is a list of exceptions. Duty to warn and protect. If you disclose a plan or threaten to harm yourself, the therapist must attempt to notify your family and notify legal authorities. In addition, if you disclose a plan to threat or harm another person, the therapist is required to warn the possible victim and notify legal authorities. Okay, so we got to check on that one. Abuse of children and vulnerable adults. If you disclose or it is suspected that there is abuse or harmful neglect of children or vulnerable adults, the elderly, disabled, or incompetent, the therapist must report the information to the appropriate state agency and or legal authorities. So far, so good. Prenatal exposure to controlled substances. Therapists must also report any admitted prenatal exposure to controlled substances that would be harmful to mother or the child. Minor guardianship. Parents or legal guardians of a non-emancipated minor client have the right to access their client's records. And insurance providers. Insurance companies and other third-party payers are given information that they request regarding services to the clients. Fair enough. All right, so there you have it. I've given you the ACA recommendations. The South Carolina Code 36, I believe, is what it falls under. Their policies, and then how one of our very own had actually done. So good job on that. I did notice that there was a couple of omissions on the therapist. They covered what they did cover was state required, but I was looking for a few other things like the financial explanation, and I didn't see the qualifications on their website or on their documentation. I'll set the link below, and thank you for listening.